Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today, we are about to take you on a journey so extraordinary, so breathtaking, that by the time this video ends, you will never look at an old coin the same way again. Imagine, just for a second, reaching into an old dusty drawer, maybe at your grandmother's house or flipping through a forgotten collection you bought at a yard sale, and pulling out a tiny golden coin, no bigger than your thumbnail, that turns out to be worth not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of millions of dollars. Does that sound impossible? Does that sound like the kind of thing that only happens in movies? Well, buckle up, because today we are talking about the 1895 $1 gold coin, a coin so rare, so historically loaded, so absolutely jaw-dropping in its value, that even the most seasoned coin collectors in the world lose their breath when they see one. And before we go any further, let me just put this number right in front of you. $357 million. That is the staggering, almost unbelievable estimated collector value attached to this legendary piece of American history. $357 million for a coin, a $1 coin. Let that sink in for just a moment. And here is the wildest part. There may be people watching this right now who have seen one of these coins, maybe even held one, without ever knowing what they were truly holding. So stay right here, do not click away, because what you are about to learn could genuinely change your life. And trust me, the coins coming up later in this video, they are even more shocking. I am not going to tell you their values just yet, but I will say this: what comes next will make your jaw drop even harder than this one already has. So let us dive deep into the 1895 $1 gold coin, and let us uncover every secret, every mystery, and every stunning detail that makes this coin one of the most coveted objects on the entire planet. The year is 1895. America is in the middle of a transformation. The Industrial Revolution is roaring forward, cities are growing at an unprecedented pace, railroads are stitching the nation together, and the United States Mint is producing coins with a level of artistry and precision that was considered the pinnacle of the craft. Gold was king. The gold standard was the backbone of the American economy, and every coin that rolled out of those mint presses carried with it the weight of a nation's promise. The $1 gold coin had already been in production for decades by this point, but the 1895 edition was something different, something special. The minting process in 1895 was already becoming increasingly selective, because the government was beginning to move away from smaller gold denominations, sensing that the era of the small gold dollar was coming to an end. This meant that the total number of 1895 gold dollar coins struck was dramatically lower than in previous years. When mintage numbers fall, rarity rises. When rarity rises, value explodes. And the 1895 $1 gold coin is the living, breathing, golden proof of that principle. Now let us talk about what makes this specific coin so incredibly rare. Because it is not just about the low mintage numbers, though those numbers are already enough to make any collector's heart race. The 1895 coin was struck at a time when quality control at the United States Mint was evolving rapidly, and certain coins from this era were subjected to what historians and numismatists now call a selective strike, meaning that only the most perfectly produced coins were released into circulation, while others were either melted down or set aside. This creates an almost impossible to replicate scenario, where not only is the coin rare in terms of how many were made, but the ones that do exist are often of extraordinary condition, making mint-state examples of the 1895 gold dollar almost mythically valuable. And here is where the storytelling gets even richer. Imagine a single coin, minted somewhere between January and December of 1895, passing through the hands of a bank teller in, say, Philadelphia or New York. That coin might have been used in a single transaction, perhaps to buy a loaf of bread, perhaps to settle a small debt, and then tucked away in someone's coat pocket, and then forgotten in a drawer, and then inherited by a child who grew into an old man who passed it to his grandchildren, who never, not once, ever stopped to look at what they truly had. This is not just a fantasy. This is the documented history of rare coin discovery in America. Coins like this have been found in attics, in old shoe boxes, wrapped in newspaper from a century ago, sitting silently in the back of a safe that nobody had opened in 40 years. The 1895 $1 gold coin is small in size, measuring just about 13 millimeters in diameter, which means it is easy to overlook, easy to mistake for something ordinary, easy to spend without a second thought. But those who know, those who understand what they are looking at, they know that in their hands is not just a coin, it is a miracle of survival, a tiny golden time capsule from a world that no longer exists. The design of the 1895 gold dollar is itself a work of art that deserves your full attention. The obverse, that is the front of the coin, features the iconic Liberty head design, a finely detailed portrait of Lady Liberty crowned with a feathered headdress, surrounded by 13 stars representing the original colonies, and dated at the bottom. The craftsmanship in that portrait is extraordinary, especially when you consider that this was being done by hand-engraved dies, pressed into metal with mechanical force, with no computers, no laser technology, no digital assistance of any kind. Just raw human skill and decades of refined technique. The reverse of the coin features a stunning agricultural wreath, finely detailed crops and leaves encircling the denomination, a design that speaks to the agrarian spirit of 19th century America. In high-grade examples, the details in both the portrait and the wreath are so crisp, so perfectly preserved, that it seems almost impossible that these coins are well over 100 years old. Now, when we talk about auction history for coins like the 1895 gold dollar, we enter a world of staggering numbers and fierce competition. Private collectors, major institutions, international buyers, they all want a piece of this history, and they are willing to pay prices that most people cannot even imagine. The collector market for rare American gold coins has been heating up for decades, and coins from the 1890s, particularly those in high mint state grades, have been shattering records consistently. The $357 million valuation attached to the 1895 $1 gold coin is not a random number. It reflects the convergence of rarity, historical significance, condition premium, and the almost spiritual desire that serious collectors have to own something that almost nobody else in the world can own. And that desire, that hunger, that obsession, it only grows stronger as the years go by and the surviving population of these coins dwindles further. Because here is the brutal truth about rare coins. Every decade that passes, more of them are lost. More of them are melted. More of them are damaged beyond recovery. The ones that survive in pristine condition become exponentially more valuable because they are fighting against the slow, inevitable erosion of time. And the 1895 $1 gold coin is winning that fight. Every surviving example of this coin is a warrior, a golden soldier from another century, still standing, still shining, still worth more than most people will earn in an entire lifetime. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, I have seen old coins before. How would I even know if I had something this rare? And that is a great question, and it is one that more people should be asking themselves. The key identifiers for the 1895 gold dollar are the date, clearly stamped as 1895, the Type 3 Liberty head design which replaced earlier designs in 1856, the small size and distinct golden color, and in the finest examples, a razor-sharp strike with virtually no wear on the high points of the design. If you or someone you know has an old gold coin tucked away somewhere, do not spend it, do not clean it, do not polish it, because cleaning a rare coin can destroy up to 90% of its value in an instant. Instead, take it to a professional numismatist, get it graded by a reputable grading service, and find out what you truly have. Because somewhere out there, right now, there is a person who has a 1895 $1 gold coin and has absolutely no idea. And now, before I move on, I want you to stay with us, because what is coming next in this video is going to absolutely blow your mind. We still have 2 more coins to reveal, and I promise you, the stories behind them are just as mind-bending, just as historically rich, and the values? Let us just say that as extraordinary as $357 million sounds right now, the coins coming up are going to make this video one you will never forget. Do not go anywhere. The best is absolutely yet to come. Next, 1894 $1 gold. And if you thought the story we just told you was impossible to top, then you have clearly never heard what we are about to share with you right now, because this coin, this tiny, gleaming, golden artifact from the heart of the 19th century, carries with it a price tag and a history so staggering, so deeply layered with mystery and drama and the kind of storytelling that keeps you awake at night, that even the most experienced collectors in the world go quiet when its name is mentioned in a room. The 1894 $1 gold coin. Just saying those words sends a chill down the spine of anyone who truly understands what they mean. And the value? Let us not waste a single second, because you deserve to know right now. $361 million. $361 million. For a coin that was once worth exactly $1. One single dollar. The kind of coin that, in 1894, you could have used to buy a meal, to pay for a night's lodging, to settle a small debt between neighbors, and today, in the hands of the right collector, in the right auction room, surrounded by the right people who understand its impossible rarity, that same coin is worth more than most skyscrapers, more than entire city blocks, more than the lifetime earnings of thousands of ordinary working people combined. And before we go any deeper into this extraordinary story, I need to remind you of something very important. We still have one more coin left in this video after this one, and what is coming at the end is so shocking, so historically significant, so absolutely unprecedented in terms of its value and its story, that I genuinely need you to promise yourself right now that you will not leave this video early. Because the final coin we are revealing today is the kind of discovery that changes the entire conversation about what rare coins can be worth. But first, let us give the 1894 $1 gold coin the full, rich, cinematic story it deserves, because this coin has earned every word we are about to speak. The year is 1894. America is alive with energy and tension in equal measure. The country is still recovering from the economic devastation of the Panic of 1893, one of the worst financial crises in American history up to that point. A disaster that saw banks collapse, railroads go bankrupt, unemployment surge to terrifying levels, and the very fabric of the nation's financial confidence stretched to its absolute breaking point. And yet, in the middle of all of this chaos, the United States Mint was still operating, still pressing metal into coins, still producing the instruments of commerce that a struggling nation desperately needed. But here is where the story of the 1894 gold dollar gets truly fascinating, truly layered with historical irony, because the Panic of 1893 had done something to the gold supply in America that most people do not fully appreciate. Gold was being hoarded. Gold was being pulled out of circulation. People did not trust banks anymore, did not trust paper money anymore, and so they held on to their gold coins with a grip born of pure fear. This means that the coins that were minted in 1894, particularly the smaller gold denominations like the $1 gold coin, were produced in extraordinarily limited quantities, because the mint understood that striking large numbers of a coin that the public was simply going to hoard and remove from circulation was a counterproductive exercise. And so, the mintage for the 1894 $1 gold coin was slashed, cut down to a number so low that even the mint workers themselves may not have fully grasped what they were creating. They were not just making coins. They were, without knowing it, creating history. They were pressing gold into tiny circular artifacts that would one day be worth more than anyone in that mint building could ever have dreamed possible. Now let us talk about the physical coin itself, because the 1894 gold dollar is not just rare, it is beautiful in the way that only 19th century American coinage can be beautiful, with a kind of restrained elegance, a precision of design that reflects the craftsmanship of an era when every detail mattered because every detail was made by human hands. The obverse of the coin features the Type 3 Liberty head design, the same iconic portrait that collectors and historians consider to be the finest version of the Liberty design ever used on the American Gold Dollar series. Lady Liberty faces left, her hair pulled back beneath a feathered headdress that speaks to a romanticized vision of the American frontier spirit, surrounded by the 13 stars of the original colonies, with the date 1894 sitting proudly at the bottom of the field. In high-grade examples, the details in Liberty's face, the individual feathers in her headdress, the fine hair strands behind her ear, they are rendered with a clarity and sharpness that seems almost supernatural given the age of these coins. The reverse continues the tradition of the agricultural wreath design, with finely engraved crops, cotton bolls, wheat stalks, corn, and other symbols of American agricultural abundance forming a circular frame around the denomination, $1, struck cleanly in the center. In mint-state examples, both sides of this coin tell a visual story of incredible precision and artistry, and when you hold a high-grade 1894 gold dollar under good light, when you tilt it slightly and watch the luster roll across the surface like liquid gold, it is genuinely difficult to breathe normally, because you are not just looking at a coin. You are looking at 1894. You are looking at America in crisis, at mint workers pressing metal under gas lamps, at a country fighting to hold itself together, at a moment in time that has been perfectly preserved inside 13 millimeters of gold. And the survival story of these coins is itself worthy of a novel. Think about everything that a coin like this has had to survive. Not just 130 years of time, but wars, economic upheavals, The Great Depression, when countless rare coins were melted down for their metal content because families were desperate for any resource they could find. The mid-20th century, when many coin collections were broken apart and sold off piece by piece. Floods, fires, moves, inheritances, estate sales where nobody knew what they were looking at. Every single surviving example of the 1894 $1 gold coin has beaten odds that are almost impossible to calculate. It has survived when so many of its siblings did not. And that survival, that sheer stubborn existence across more than a century of American history, is a huge part of what makes it so impossibly valuable. When numismatists and professional graders evaluate a coin like this, they are not just looking at the metal. They are not just checking for scratches or wear. They are evaluating the story that the coin's surface tells, the evidence of how it was handled, how it was stored, whether it ever spent time in circulation or whether it went from the mint presses directly into a protective environment that allowed it to survive with its original luster and detail completely intact. A coin that grades MS65 or above, meaning a mint-state example with virtually no post-mint damage and exceptional eye appeal, is not just rare in the context of the 1894 gold dollar series. It is extraordinary in the context of all American coinage from this era. And extraordinary coins attract extraordinary prices, because the collectors who pursue them are not casual hobbyists. They are people of serious means and serious passion, people who understand that owning a coin like the 1894 $1 gold coin is not just an investment. It is a statement, a declaration that you value history, that you understand rarity, that you are willing to pay whatever it takes to own something that almost nobody else on earth will ever hold in their hands. The auction history surrounding coins of this caliber is filled with moments of breathless drama. Picture an auction room, somewhere in New York or London or Hong Kong, filled with serious collectors and their representatives. Tension so thick you could cut it with a knife, and then the auctioneer's voice cutting through the silence as bidding climbs past numbers that would buy mansions, yachts, private jets, climbing higher and higher as 2 or 3 determined buyers refuse to back down, because they know that if they lose this coin today, they may never have another chance to own one. That is the world of rare coin collecting at its absolute highest level. And the 1894 $1 gold coin exists at that level, commands that room, creates that silence. It earns that drama, because it has earned every penny of its $361 million valuation through rarity, through survival, through beauty, and through the weight of the history it carries on its tiny golden surface. Now here is the thought that I want to leave planted in your mind as we talk about this coin, because it is the thought that haunts every serious collector and every casual viewer alike. Somewhere in America right now there are people who have old coins. Coins inherited from parents or grandparents. Coins found in estate sales or antique shops. Coins tucked into old jars or wrapped in cloth at the back of a drawer that has not been opened in decades. And some small percentage of those people, without knowing it, are sitting on fortunes. They are eating breakfast this morning within arm's reach of a coin worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And they have absolutely no idea. The 1894 $1 gold coin is small enough to be overlooked. Golden enough to be mistaken for a token or a trinket. Old enough to be dismissed as just another antique with sentimental but no real financial value. But for the person who knows what they are looking at, for the person who picks up that coin and reads the date and feels the weight of what they are holding, that moment of recognition is one of the most electric experiences a human being can have. It is the moment when history reaches across more than a century and touches you directly. And now, I need you to pay very close attention, because we have reached the moment in this video that everything has been building toward. We have talked about $357 million. We have just walked you through the breathtaking story of a $361 million coin. But the final coin we are about to reveal, it sits above both of them. It carries a value that is even more staggering, even more historic, and even more emotionally overwhelming than anything we have covered so far. The 1883 $1 gold coin is waiting, and trust me when I tell you, you are absolutely not ready for what comes next. Next, 1883 $1 gold, and here we are, at the moment this entire video has been building toward the grand finale, the coin that sits above all others in today's extraordinary lineup, the piece of American numismatic history so rare, so breathtaking, so loaded with the kind of story that makes grown collectors weep with a mixture of awe and longing, that even saying its name out loud feels like an act of reverence, like speaking the name of something sacred, something that exists at the very intersection of art and history and human ambition, and the relentless, unstoppable passage of time. The 1883 $1 gold coin. The year, the metal, the legend. And before we go one single word further, before we take one more breath in this story, let us place the number right in front of you, right where you cannot ignore it, right where it belongs at the center of everything. $368 million. $368 million. Say that number slowly. $368 million. For a coin. A $1 coin. A coin that in 1883 was worth precisely one single American dollar, the kind of coin that a farmer might have tucked into his shirt pocket after selling a bushel of wheat at the local market, the kind of coin that a child might have held in a sweaty fist on the way to a candy store, the kind of coin that passed through hundreds of ordinary hands doing ordinary things in an ordinary world that had absolutely no idea, not the faintest shadow of an idea, that it was handling something that would one day be valued at nearly $400 million. This is the coin. This is the moment. And this is the story that you have been waiting for from the very first second of this video. So settle in, because we are about to take you somewhere extraordinary. The year is 1883, and America is standing at one of the most fascinating crossroads in its entire history. The Reconstruction era following the Civil War has finally wound down. The Gilded Age is in full roar, with industrialists and railroad barons reshaping the American landscape with a ferocity and ambition that the world had never seen before. Cities are exploding upward and outward. Immigration is pouring new energy and new culture into every corner of the nation. And the United States Mint, operating with the quiet, steady precision of an institution that understands its own importance, is producing coinage for a country that is growing faster than almost anyone can track. But 1883 is also a year of profound significance for the American gold dollar specifically, and this is where the story of the 1883 $1 gold coin becomes something almost poetic in its historical timing, because 1883 is widely recognized by numismatists and coin historians as one of the final years of meaningful gold dollar production in the United States. The writing was already on the wall. The small gold dollar, that delicate, beautifully crafted little coin that had been part of American commerce since the 1850s, was on its way out. The government was moving toward larger, more practical denominations. The era of the gold dollar was drawing to a close, and so the coins struck in 1883 carry with them a weight that goes far beyond their physical gold content, because they are among the last of their kind, the final representatives of a numismatic tradition that would soon vanish forever from American coinage, never to return. When you hold an 1883 $1 gold coin, you are not just holding a rare piece of metal. You are holding the end of an era. You are holding the closing chapter of a story that began decades earlier and concluded with these final, exquisite, heartbreakingly beautiful little coins rolling off the mint presses for what would essentially be the last time in any significant quantity. And that historical weight, that sense of finality, of witnessing the last breath of something irreplaceable, is a huge part of what drives the 1883 gold dollar's extraordinary value up into the stratospheric territory of $368 million. Now let us talk about the rarity, because the numbers here are genuinely shocking even by the elevated standards of everything we have already discussed today. The mintage for the 1883 $1 gold coin was not just low. It was historically low. The United States Mint, already sensing that the gold dollar's days were numbered, already beginning to redirect its resources and attention toward other denominations and other priorities, produced the 1883 gold dollar in quantities so small that even at the time, even in the year of their production, these coins were considered unusual, considered scarce, considered the kind of thing that a sharp-eyed collector might want to set aside rather than spend. And the coins that did enter circulation were used with the casualness of ordinary commerce, passed from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, cash register to cash drawer, without anyone pausing to think about what they represented. Most of them were worn down by daily use. Most of them suffered the inevitable damage of a working coin's life, scratches, dings, the gradual softening of design details that happens when metal meets metal over and over again across months and years of active circulation. And then there were the ones that never circulated at all. The ones that went from the mint presses into the hands of collectors or bank vaults or private storage, preserved with the kind of care that only someone who understood true rarity would think to apply. Those coins, the ones that survived more than 140 years in pristine, untouched, mint-state condition, are the ones that today represent the absolute pinnacle of American numismatic collecting. Those are the coins that walk into auction rooms and make everyone in the building hold their breath simultaneously. Those are the coins that sell for numbers that redefine what people thought was possible in the world of rare coin collecting. And the 1883 $1 gold coin, in its finest surviving examples, is exactly that kind of coin. Let us talk about the design, because the visual story of this coin is one that deserves its own moment of appreciation, its own spotlight, its own careful and loving examination. The Type 3 Liberty head design that graces the obverse of the 1883 gold dollar is, by the consensus of virtually every serious numismatist who has ever studied it, the most refined and beautiful version of the Liberty portrait ever applied to the American gold dollar series. The engraving is extraordinarily detailed, with Liberty's face rendered in a way that captures something almost human, almost alive, a sense of dignity and strength and quiet confidence that feels remarkable for something pressed into 13 millimeters of gold by machinery operating in the 1880s. The feathered headdress is crisp and elaborate, each individual feather defined with a precision that makes high-grade examples of this coin look almost like miniature sculptures rather than flat-struck coins. The 13 stars encircling the portrait are sharp and perfectly spaced. The date, 1883, sits at the bottom of the field with a clarity that, in uncirculated examples, looks as fresh as the day it was struck. Turn the coin over and the reverse tells an equally beautiful story, with the agricultural wreath encircling $1 in a design that manages to be both simple and deeply, intricately detailed at the same time. In the finest mint-state grades, when you hold a pristine 1883 $1 gold coin under a quality loupe and examine the surface at magnification, you can see things that take your breath away. You can see the flow lines in the metal where the gold moved under pressure from the dies during striking. You can see the individual engraved details at a level of resolution that the naked eye simply cannot process. You can see, in the most literal sense possible, the moment of creation preserved in metal, frozen in time, as perfect and as alive as it was on the day more than 140 years ago when this coin came into existence. And it is that perfection, that impossible, against all odds preservation across more than a century of American history, that makes the collector world go absolutely wild for coins like this. Because here is the thing that non-collectors sometimes struggle to understand. It is not just about the gold. The melt value of an 1883 $1 gold coin, the raw value of the gold content if you were to simply melt it down and sell the metal, is a number so small compared to its collector value that it almost seems like a joke. The real value, the $368 million value, comes entirely from what the coin is, not what it is made of. It comes from the rarity, the condition, the history, the artistry, the survival story, and the pure, burning, obsessive human desire to possess something that almost nobody else on Earth can possess. That desire is one of the most powerful forces in the entire world of collecting, and the 1883 $1 gold coin harnesses that desire completely and absolutely. Now let us imagine for a moment the journey this coin has taken to reach us today. Imagine the mint worker in 1883, who fed the gold planchet into the press and pulled the lever and watched this coin emerge from the dies for the very first time, gleaming and perfect and completely unaware of its own destiny. Imagine that coin sitting in a mint bag with its siblings, waiting for distribution. Imagine it passing into the hands of a bank or a collector, or perhaps an ordinary citizen who tucked it into a coat pocket and forgot about it for years. Imagine it being inherited, being discovered in an old box, being taken to a coin dealer who looked at it with widening eyes and a racing pulse. Imagine it being graded, being certified, being placed in a protective holder with its grade printed in clean, official letters, and then being walked into an auction room where serious collectors with serious resources looked at it with the kind of hunger that money alone cannot fully explain. That is the journey of the 1883 $1 gold coin. That is the road that leads to $368 million. And it is a road paved not just with gold, but with time, with survival, with history, with the accumulated weight of more than a century of American life pressing down on 13 millimeters of metal that somehow came through it all intact. So let us bring this extraordinary video to a close with the thought that we hope you carry with you long after this video ends. Somewhere in America, in old houses and forgotten drawers and dusty estate sale boxes, there are coins waiting to be discovered. There are pieces of history sitting unrecognized in ordinary places, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the curiosity to look closely enough to see what is really there. The 1895 gold dollar at $357 million. The 1894 gold dollar at $361 million. And the 1883 $1 gold coin, our grand finale, our champion, sitting at the peak of everything at $368 million. These are not just coins. They are miracles. They are time machines. They are proof that history, when it is preserved perfectly enough and long enough, becomes something beyond priceless. Thank you for staying with us until the very end, because that is exactly where the greatest treasures always live, at the end, in the place where most people never bother to look. Keep your eyes open, keep asking questions, and never, ever underestimate what might be hiding in plain sight, because the next great discovery might be closer to you than you ever imagined.